I still remember the exact moment my life split into before and after. It happened in a quiet office that smelled faintly of polished wood and old paper. The kind of place where people pretend to speak softly out of respect, but really it's because secrets live in the walls. I was sitting there, hands folded tightly in my lap, staring at the edge of a mahogany desk while a man in a gray suit shuffled documents that would decide my future. My name is Mia.
Just Mia.
And that day, I realized how invisible a person can become in their own life. It started before the lawyer even spoke. My daughter-in-law, Vanessa, leaned toward him slightly, thinking I wouldn't notice. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but sharp enough to cut through the silence. "If she causes any trouble," she said, "we'll just move her somewhere. There are plenty of facilities." Facilities. Not homes. Not places. Facilities. Like I was already something to be stored away. I didn't move. Didn't react. I just kept my eyes on the desk and breathed slowly, as if I hadn't heard a single word. But I had. Every single one. My son Ethan sat beside her. Quiet.
Still.
His face carefully arranged into something that resembled grief, but didn't quite reach his eyes. I searched his expression for something familiar, something from the boy I raised. I found nothing. 42 years of motherhood, and in that moment, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. "Shall we begin?" the lawyer said. His name was Richard Hale. He had known my husband for decades, attended our anniversary dinners, shook my hand at holidays, called me Mia with warmth. Today, he couldn't even meet my eyes. He opened the folder. As stated in the final will and testament of Mr. Daniel Carter. Daniel, my husband, my partner for 47 years.
Gone.
And now this. The primary residence, Richard continued, along with all associated assets, including vehicles and furnishings, will be transferred to his son, Ethan Carter, and Ethan's wife, Vanessa Carter. For a second, I thought I had misheard him. The room felt distant, like I was underwater. Our house. The house where I painted the kitchen walls 3 different shades of blue because Daniel couldn't decide which one he liked. The house where Ethan took his first steps. Where birthdays, arguments, laughter, and quiet mornings had layered themselves into something that felt like permanence.
Gone. Just like that.
I swallowed slowly, but my throat felt dry. The remaining financial assets, Richard continued, including investment accounts totaling approximately $2.8 million, will also be transferred to Ethan and Vanessa Carter. Vanessa's hand slipped into Ethan's. A small smile touched her lips.
Quick.
Controlled, but real. I saw it, and something inside me cracked. And finally, Richard said, his voice tightening slightly, a monthly allowance of $1,800 will be provided to Mrs. Mia Carter for the duration of her life. Silence.
Heavy.
Suffocating. I blinked.
Once. Twice.
"Excuse me?" I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. Richard adjusted his glasses. Those were Daniel's wishes. "No," I said quietly. "They weren't." I lifted my head and looked directly at him. My husband and I built everything together. Every dollar. Every decision. He promised that I would never have to worry. Richard shifted uncomfortably. "The will was updated 5 months ago," he said. "After his diagnosis. 5 months. That was when everything changed. That was when Vanessa suddenly became attentive, cooking meals, sitting beside Daniel, offering to help with paperwork, taking over things I had handled for decades. At the time, I thought she was being kind. Now, I wasn't so sure. "This doesn't make sense," I said, my voice steadier now. "Daniel would never leave me like this." Vanessa sighed softly, as if I were being difficult. "Mia, she said gently, her tone coated in something that almost sounded like concern. This is hard for all of us. But Daniel made his decision. Decision. Such a clean word. So convenient. I turned to Ethan. Did you know about this? He hesitated. Just for a second.
But I saw it.
Yes, he said finally. Dad talked to us.
Us. Not me.
Never me. And you didn't think to tell me? I asked.
His jaw tightened.
He asked us not to. Of course he did. That was the answer they had prepared. I let out a slow breath. Can I see the previous will? I asked. Richard nodded. I can arrange that. Good, I said, because something wasn't right. Not just emotionally. Logically. Daniel was many things, but careless was not one of them. And this was careless. Or forced. Or something worse. I stood up slowly. My legs felt unsteady, but I refused to let it show. I think we're done here, I said. Vanessa leaned toward Ethan again, not even bothering to lower her voice this time. We should list the house quickly, she said, before the market shifts. List the house. I hadn't even left it yet. 47 years of life, and I had become an inconvenience with a deadline. I walked out without another word. The sunlight outside felt too bright, too real. I got into my car and just sat there for a long time. Then finally I let the tears come, quiet at first, then uncontrollable. Daniel, I whispered, what did you do? But deep down, I already knew the truth. He hadn't done this. Not like this. Not willingly. And if that was true, then someone else had. I wiped my face slowly and looked at my reflection in the rear-view mirror. I didn't see a helpless widow. I saw something else. Something sharper. They thought I would accept this. That I would quietly disappear. Move into one of those facilities. Fade out of my own life. I almost laughed. They had no idea who they were dealing with, because I wasn't done. Not even close. And whatever happened in those final months, I was going to uncover it, no matter what it cost. The house didn't feel like mine anymore the moment I stepped inside. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. The air was the same, still carrying traces of Daniel's cologne and the lavender polish I used on the furniture. The hallway looked identical, every picture frame exactly where I had placed it years ago. But something deeper had shifted. Something invisible. Ownership. Not legal, something more personal than that. I closed the door behind me slowly and stood there for a moment, listening to the silence. It wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. 47 years. 3 months ago, she insists on managing his medication. 2 months ago, he becomes forgetful, confused, distant. And then the will changes.
No.
That wasn't coincidence. That was a pattern. I opened my eyes and stood up quickly. If Daniel had suspected something, anything, he wouldn't have just accepted it. He was methodical, careful, the kind of man who double-checked everything, even things that didn't need checking. If something was wrong, he would have left something behind. I should start preparing, I continued. It's only practical. Vanessa's shoulders relaxed. I'm so glad you see it that way, she said. Of course she was. She thought I had accepted it, that I had given up, that I was exactly what she believed me to be, harmless. I nodded. I'll need some time, I added. There's a lot to go through. Ethan nodded quickly. Of course. Just not too long. Not too long. I almost laughed. You'll have your timeline, I said. What they didn't know was that I had mine, and it had nothing to do with moving out. After they left, I didn't touch a single box. Instead, I went straight back upstairs, closed the door, locked it, and took the notebook back down again. I flipped to the page with the name.
Elle merci.
I whispered it out loud, trying to make it real, trying to remember. And then, something clicked. Mercer.
Law.
Old connection. Daniel had mentioned someone years ago. A colleague. Someone he trusted. Someone who did things quietly. My heart started beating faster again. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because if Daniel had left something with this person, then the will, the money, the house, that might not be the whole story. Not even the real one. I closed the notebook and looked out the window. For the first time, since the reading of the will, I felt something shift. Not grief, not anger. Something sharper. Hope. And something else.
Control.
They thought the story had already been written. They thought I was at the end. But they were wrong. This was just the beginning. And tomorrow, I was going to find Elle Mercer. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound the house made. The quiet hum of electricity, the occasional creak in the walls, the faint whisper of wind outside. It all felt louder than usual, like the house itself was trying to tell me something. Or maybe it was just me, thinking, replaying, connecting pieces that no longer felt random. Daniel knew. That was the only thing I was certain about now. He had known something was wrong, about Vanessa, about the medication, about the pressure. And instead of confronting it directly, he had prepared. Quietly.
Carefully.
Just like him. Which meant one thing. The will wasn't the end of his plan. It was part of it. By morning, I wasn't tired anymore. Just focused. I got up before sunrise, dressed simply, and tied my hair back the way I used to when I had something important to do. Not out of habit, but out of instinct, like I was stepping into a version of myself I hadn't needed in years. The version that paid attention, that didn't ignore small details, that didn't trust easily. I made coffee but barely touched it. My mind was already moving ahead, names, connections, possibilities.
Elle merci.
I said it again quietly. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and pulled my phone toward me. If Daniel had trusted this person enough to leave documents with them, then this wasn't casual. This wasn't just a friend. This was someone important. Someone deliberate.
I searched the name.
It didn't take long. Lucas Mercer.
Attorney.
Private practice. Not a flashy firm. Not a big office. Just a quiet listing, a modest building about 40 minutes away. That alone told me something. Daniel didn't trust loud people. He trusted precise ones. I wrote down the address, then paused.
Think.
If Vanessa had been going through his papers, if she had been watching, if she had pushed him into changing the will, then she might not know about Mercer. But what if she suspected? What if she had missed something?
No.
I couldn't assume safety. I needed to move carefully. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. No calls. No messages. No warning. If Mercer was part of Daniel's plan, then he would understand why I showed up unannounced. The drive felt longer than it actually was. Every red light irritated me. Every slow car in front of me felt like an obstacle placed deliberately in my path. My fingers tapped lightly against the steering wheel, not nervously, but impatiently. For the first time since Daniel's death, I wasn't reacting. I was acting, and that changed everything. When I finally pulled up to the building, I almost missed it. No sign out front, just a small plaque beside the door. Mercer Legal Services. Quiet, discreet, exactly what I expected. I stepped inside. The reception area was simple.
Clean. No necessary decoration.
A woman in her early 30s looked up from behind the desk. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I need to speak with Lucas Mercer. It's about Daniel Carter." She paused, just slightly. Then her expression shifted. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," I said. but he'll want to see me. She studied me for a moment, then picked up the phone. Mr. Mercer? There's a Mia here. She says it's about Daniel Carter.
A pause.
Then,
Yes.
of course. She hung up and stood. He'll see you now. Of course he would. I followed her down a narrow hallway and into a quiet office. Lucas Mercer stood as I entered. He was younger than I expected, mid-40s maybe. Sharp eyes, calm posture, the kind of man who observed more than he spoke. Mia, he said. Not Mrs. Carter. Not ma'am.
Mia.
That told me everything I needed to know. You knew I'd come, I said. He gave a small nod. I was hoping you would. I didn't sit immediately. I studied him first. You knew Daniel was in trouble, I said. It wasn't a question. Mercer didn't deny it. I knew he was concerned, he said carefully. Concerned doesn't make someone write warnings in a notebook, I replied. That got his attention. Notebook, he asked. He documented everything, I said, including Vanessa, the medication, the changes. Mercer exhaled slowly. Then you understand why he came to me. I understand he didn't trust what was happening around him, I said. What I don't understand is why he didn't tell me. Mercer's expression softened slightly.
He wanted to, he said.
But he believed it would put you in a difficult position. Difficult? I almost laughed. I just lost my home. You lost what they wanted you to lose, Mercer said quietly. That made me pause. What does that mean? He gestured toward the chair.
Sit, he said.
It's time you see everything. This time I did. He walked to a cabinet behind his desk and unlocked it. Not a drawer.
A cabinet.
That mattered. He pulled out a thick folder, then another, then a sealed envelope, and placed them all in front of me. Daniel came to me about 6 months ago, Mercer said, right after his diagnosis. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of what would happen to you after he was gone. My chest tightened. He told me he had started noticing inconsistencies, Mercer continued. Behavior that didn't align. Conversations that didn't feel right. And most importantly, control. Vanessa, I said. Mercer nodded. She inserted herself into everything.
Finance.
Medication. Legal discussions. Slowly, carefully. Not enough to alarm anyone immediately, but enough to shift influence. That's exactly what happened, I said quietly. He realized it too, Mercer said. But by then, it was already in motion. I looked down at the folder. What is this? I asked. Protection, Mercer replied. I opened it. The first document made my breath catch. Property ownership. Not the house. Something else. A location I didn't recognize. My name. Only mine. I flipped to the next page. Bank records. Accounts I had never seen. Transfers. Large ones. Over time. Carefully structured. Hidden in plain sight. This, I whispered. Daniel moved assets quietly, Mercer said. Legally.
Carefully.
Over time. He knew the visible estate might become compromised. So he let them take it, I said. Mercer looked at me. He let them think they had. The room went completely still. I leaned back slowly, understanding it now. All of it. The will, the timing, the silence.
He played along, I said.
Yes. To protect me. Yes. And Vanessa, she thinks she won. Mercer didn't smile, but there was something close to it. She believes she does, he said. I closed the folder slowly. My hands were no longer shaking. My breathing was steady.
Clear.
Focused. How much? I asked. Mercer didn't hesitate. More than enough, he said. I let out a quiet breath. Daniel.
You didn't leave me.
You prepared me. There's more, Mercer added. Of course there was.
There always is, I said.
He slid the sealed envelope toward me. "This is from him," he said. "For you." I stared at it. My name was written on the front, in Daniel's handwriting, and suddenly, everything became very real again. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I looked at Mercer. "They pressured him, didn't they?" I said. "To change the will." "Yes." "And the medication?"
A pause.
"We don't have full proof yet," he said carefully. But Daniel had strong suspicions. I nodded slowly. "I'll find it," I said. Mercer studied me. "You're not what they expected," he said.
No. Y replica calmly.
"I'm not." I stood up, took the folder, took the envelope, and for the first time since all of this began, I felt something solid under my feet. Not grief, not confusion.
Power.
"They think I'm leaving quietly," I said. Mercer didn't respond. He didn't need to. I walked toward the door, then paused. "They wanted control," I said. "And now?" I looked back at him. "Now," I said, "I decide what happens next." And this time, I meant it. I didn't open Daniel's letter right away. I kept it in my bag the entire drive home, resting my hand over it at red lights like it might disappear if I didn't. It felt heavier than paper should feel, like it carried something more than words. Answers. Maybe even truth I wasn't ready for yet. But one thing was clear now. This wasn't about survival anymore. This was about control. And I had just taken it back. When I pulled into the driveway, Ethan's car was already there. Of course it was. I sat in my car for a moment, watching the house. The same house they were already planning to sell. The same house they thought I was preparing to leave quietly. I almost smiled. Not yet. I stepped out, adjusted my coat, and walked inside like nothing had changed. Ethan was in the kitchen. Vanessa stood near the counter, flipping through something on her phone like she owned the place already. "Where were you?" Ethan asked immediately. His tone wasn't concern. It was control. I noticed that now. "I went out," I said calmly. Vanessa looked up. "You should let us know when you leave," she said. "We were trying to reach you."
Trying to monitor me.
That was new. Or maybe it wasn't, and I had just been blind to it before. "I didn't realize I needed permission," I replied lightly. Ethan sighed. "Mia, it's not about permission. It's about responsibility. You're not alone anymore." Not alone. The irony almost made me laugh. "You're right," I said. And for a brief second, both of them relaxed. They thought I was agreeing. I wasn't. I walked past them and set my bag down carefully on the table. The folder inside it felt like a secret weapon, because that's exactly what it was. "We need to finalize a timeline," Vanessa said, her voice slipping into that polished tone again. "The sooner we prepare the house, the better the offers will be." Offers. Always business with her. Always calculation. I turned to face her. "I've already started making arrangements," I said. Ethan blinked. "That fast?" "Yes." Vanessa smiled. "Good. That's very practical." Of course she liked that. They both did. Compliance made things easy.
For them.
"Where will you go?" Ethan asked. I paused. "Just long enough. Somewhere quiet," I said. "Smaller. Easier." Not a lie. Just not the whole truth. Vanessa nodded approvingly. "That's exactly what you need."
Need.
Another word they liked to use for me. I walked into the living room, letting the conversation fade behind me. I could feel their eyes on my back, trying to read me, but they wouldn't. Not anymore. I sat down slowly, my mind already moving ahead. If I was going to do this right, I needed more than just Daniel's preparation. I needed proof. Real proof. Not suspicion. Not instinct. Something undeniable. And if Vanessa had been manipulating his medication, there would be traces. Somewhere. Ethan followed me into the room. Mia, he said, softer now. Are you okay? I looked at him. Really looked. And for a moment, I saw it. A flicker. Not guilt.
Not yet.
But something close. Uncertainty. She didn't tell you everything, I said quietly. His brow furrowed. What do you mean? I held his gaze. I said, you don't know the whole story. Vanessa stepped into the doorway. That's enough, she said sharply. There it was. The real voice. Not soft. Not polished. Controlled but tight. I think Mia is just overwhelmed, she added quickly, switching back. This is a lot for her.
For me.
Always for me. I stood up slowly. You're right, I said. They both relaxed again. And I continued, that I need to rest. Vanessa nodded. Of course. Ethan hesitated, like he wanted to say something more. But he didn't. He never did. That was the problem. I went upstairs, closed the door, and locked it. Then I took the letter out of my bag. For a moment, I just held it. My name. His handwriting. I traced it lightly with my finger. Then, finally, I opened it. The paper unfolded slowly, like it was resisting time itself. Mia, it began. Simple.
Direct.
Just like him. If you're reading this, then you found your way. I swallowed. He knew.
Of course he did.
I'm sorry I couldn't tell you everything. I wanted to, more than anything. But I needed you to be safe first. My chest tightened. There are things happening around us that aren't right. I've tried to confirm them, but I don't have enough yet. What I do have is time and a plan. A plan. Always a plan. I need you to trust me, even if it looks like I've failed you. Tears blurred the words for a moment. Failed me?
No.
Never. I haven't. I pressed my lips together and kept reading. They will think they've won. Let them. I exhaled slowly. They will rush. That's their weakness. Vanessa. Always rushing the next step. Always pushing forward. They underestimate you. That's their mistake. A tear slipped down my cheek. You are stronger than they think. Smarter than they realize. And more patient than either of them will ever be. I closed my eyes for a second, then opened them again. If something happens to me sooner than expected, follow the path I've set. Everything you need is already in place.
It was.
I had seen it, felt it. There is one more thing. I leaned forward slightly. There is proof. My breath caught. I didn't get the chance to secure it fully. But it exists.
Proof.
Real proof. Not suspicion. Not theory. I hid it somewhere they wouldn't look. Somewhere only you would think to check. My mind started racing. Where? Where would that be? You'll know when you see it. Of course.
He always said that. Cryptic.
Precise. Frustrating. And always right. I love you. Always. The letter ended there.
No signature.
It didn't need one. I sat there in silence, the paper still in my hands.
Proof.
He said it existed, which meant this wasn't over. Not even close. I stood up slowly, thinking, where wouldn't they look? Where would only I think to check? Then, it hit me. Not the office. Not the bedroom. Not the obvious places.
No. Daniel was smarter than that.
He would hide it somewhere personal. Somewhere invisible. I turned toward the door. My heart was beating faster now, because I knew, or, at least, I thought I did. And if I was right, then everything was about to change. I didn't hesitate. The moment the thought formed in my mind, I knew it was right. Daniel never hid important things in obvious places. He didn't trust drawers or safes or anything that could be searched quickly. He believed in something else, something simpler. Memory, emotion, meaning. If he said I would know where to look, then it had to be somewhere only I would recognize. Somewhere that mattered to us, not to them. I stepped out of the bedroom quietly and moved down the hallway, my heartbeat steady but strong. Ethan and Vanessa were still downstairs. I could hear faint voices, the low murmur of conversation mixed with the occasional clink of dishes. They were comfortable. Too comfortable.
Good.
That made them careless. I passed the study.
Paused. No.
Too obvious. The kitchen?
No.
Vanessa had practically taken that over already. The living room? Still too exposed. Then I turned toward the one place neither of them had touched. Not once. The small room at the end of the hall. I pushed the door open slowly. The smell hit me first. Paint, old paper, a hint of dust. My art room. I hadn't used it in years. Not since Daniel got sick. Not since life became about routines, schedules, care. Before that, it had been my escape. My space. My world. And Daniel knew that. He respected it more than anyone. Even when I stopped using it, he never let anyone change it. Never moved anything. Never suggested turning it into something else. "This room stays yours," he used to say. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. The light filtered through the tall window, soft and quiet. The easel still stood in the corner, a half-finished painting frozen in time. Brushes in jars. Canvases stacked against the wall. Nothing had changed.
Except me.
I walked slowly across the room, my eyes scanning everything.
Think.
Where would he hide something? Not in plain sight, but not impossible to find either. Something I would recognize. Something connected to us. I stopped in front of the easel. The painting. It was unfinished, a landscape from years ago. A lake. Trees. A small cabin in the distance. Daniel loved that one. Said it reminded him of peace. I reached out and touched the edge of the canvas. Then froze. Something felt off. Not the painting. Behind it. I carefully lifted the canvas off the easel. And there it was. A small, flat panel attached to the back. My breath caught. Of course he would hide it here. Not hidden from me.
Hidden from me.
I turned the panel over and slid it open. Inside, a flash drive. And a folded piece of paper. My hands didn't shake this time. I picked them up slowly, carefully, like they might disappear if I moved too fast. This was it.
Proof.
I unfolded the paper first. A short note.
Mia.
If you found this, then you followed your instincts.
Good.
What's on the drive may be difficult to watch, but you deserve the truth. Trust yourself. I closed my eyes for a second, then opened them. No more waiting. I grabbed my laptop from the desk, plugged in the drive, and sat down. The screen flickered. One folder. No name. I clicked it. Video files. Multiple. Dated. Organized. My pulse slowed instead of racing. Clarity. Focus. I opened the first one. The camera angle was fixed. The study. Daniel's desk. The medication box clearly visible. I leaned closer. Then, Vanessa. She walked into the frame, looked around, careful, listening, then moved to the desk. Opened the medication box. My chest tightened. She wasn't just checking it. She was changing it, swapping pills, moving them between compartments. Deliberate, precise, confident, like she had done it before. I pressed pause, just for a second, not because I needed a break, because I needed to understand what I was seeing. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This wasn't theory. This was fact. I pressed play again. More clips. Different days. Same behavior. Always when no one was around. Always controlled. Always intentional. Then I opened another file. The date made my stomach twist. The day the will was signed. The camera angle was different. Lower. Closer.
Daniel sat at the desk.
But something was wrong.
He looked weak, disoriented.
His posture wasn't right. His movements were slow. Too slow. Vanessa stood beside him, a document in front of him, a pen in his hand. She leaned closer, said something I couldn't hear, guided his hand.
He signed.
My vision blurred for a second, not from tears, from anger.
Cold, sharp,
Precise anger. Behind her, Ethan, standing still, watching, not stopping it, not questioning, just there. I stopped the video. The room went silent, completely silent. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the screen.
processing,
Not reacting.
processing.
This was everything. Medication tampering, manipulation, coercion, evidence. Real evidence. Undeniable. I leaned back slowly and exhaled. They thought I wouldn't see this, I whispered. They thought I would know. I closed the laptop.
Carefully.
Deliberately.
No panique. No ruse.
Just control. Because now, I had everything. I stood up and looked around the room one more time. My room. My space. My answer. Thank you, I said quietly. Not to the room.
To him.
Then I took the drive, the note, and the laptop and walked out. Down the hallway. Down the stairs. And into the living room. Ethan and Vanessa looked up immediately. They weren't expecting me.
Good.
Can we talk? I asked.
Calm.
Even. Vanessa smiled. Of course, she said. Still confident. Still in control. At least she thought she was. I stepped forward and placed the laptop on the table. Then looked at both of them. Really looked. Because this was the moment. The turning point. The end of their version of the story. And the beginning of mine. I think, I said quietly, it's time we all told the truth. Vanessa's smile faltered. Just slightly. Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the laptop and pressed play. The room went silent the second the video started. No one spoke. No one moved. The only sound was the faint hum of the laptop and the quiet, unmistakable click of pills shifting inside a plastic organizer. Vanessa didn't react at first. She stood still, her expression frozen somewhere between confusion and disbelief, like her mind hadn't caught up to what her eyes were seeing. Ethan leaned forward slightly. What is this? He asked. But his voice was already different. Less confident. Less certain. I didn't answer. I let the video speak. Vanessa on the screen moved calmly, methodically, swapping capsules from one section to another, checking something in a small notebook she carried, then adjusting again. Careful, precise, practiced. Not an accident. Not a mistake. A system. Ethan's face changed.
Slowly. Piece by piece.
What is she doing? He said quietly. Still not understanding. Still trying not to understand. Vanessa finally moved. Turn it off, she said. Not loud. Not panicked. Controlled. But tight.
No. Irraplia.
And press play on the next clip. A different day. Same action. Same confidence. Same intention. Ethan stood up. Vanessa, he said. This time, her name sounded like a question. Like a warning. She didn't look at him. Her eyes were locked on the screen. Turn it off, she repeated.
Why?
I asked calmly. You've seen it before. That hit. Harder than anything else. Because it was true. She didn't deny it. Instead, she stepped forward. That doesn't prove anything, she said quickly. Medication schedules change. You don't understand what you're looking at. I almost smiled. The confidence was cracking. Then explain it, I said. She opened her mouth, then closed it. because there was no explanation that worked. Not a real one. Ethan turned toward her fully now. Vanessa, what is this? She shook her head. It's nothing, she said. She's twisting it. She? I repeated. Vanessa ignored me. She's upset, she continued, looking at Ethan now. She's been like this since the will reading. She's trying to. I clicked the next video. The room shifted. This one was different. Heavier. Daniel at the desk.
Weak.
Unfocused. And Vanessa beside him, guiding his hand. Ethan didn't move this time.
Didn't speak.
Didn't breathe. He just watched. Watched his father struggle to hold a pen. Watched his wife lean in. Watched the moment everything changed. Turn it off. Vanessa snapped. Louder now. The control was gone. I paused the video. Silence again. Thicker this time. Ethan spoke first. His voice was barely above a whisper. Tell me this isn't what it looks like. Vanessa's composure shattered for a second, then snapped back together. I did what needed to be done, she said. There it was.
No denial. No confusión.
Just justification. Ethan stared at her. What does that mean? She exhaled sharply. It means your father was making irrational decisions, she said.
He was sick.
He was confused. He was going to leave everything in chaos. So you drugged him? Ethan asked. The word hung in the air. Heavy. Final. I didn't drug him, she said quickly. I adjusted things. Adjusted. Such a careful word. So clean. So empty. You changed his medication, I said calmly. Yes, she snapped. Because someone had to take control. There it was. The truth. Not hidden anymore. Not softened.
Raw. Sharp. Real.
Ethan stepped back slightly, like the distance might help him process it. You manipulated him, he said. I protected us, she shot back. Do you have any idea what we were dealing with? Debt, pressure, everything falling apart while your parents sat on millions like it didn't matter. It wasn't yours, I said. It should have been, she shouted. Silence again. But different now. Broken. Ethan shook his head slowly. You did this for money? For us, she insisted. For our future. At the cost of my father, he asked. She didn't answer. Because she didn't need to. The answer was already there. In the videos. In the silence. In everything. Ethan turned to me. His face looked different now. Not controlled. Not distant. Just real. Mom, he said quietly. It had been a long time since he called me that. I didn't know. I held his gaze. I know, I said. And I meant it. He knew parts. But not this. Not the truth. He looked back at Vanessa. You told me he wanted to change the will, he said. You said it was his decision. It was, she insisted. He signed it. Ethan laughed. A hollow, broken sound.
Yeah, he said.
I just watched how. She stepped toward him. Ethan, listen to me. No, he said sharply. You listen.
She stopped.
I trusted you, he continued. I believed you. And you. He gestured toward the laptop. You did this right in front of me. I was trying to fix things, she said. You broke everything, he replied. The room fell quiet again. But this time, it felt like the end of something. Vanessa looked between us, calculating, searching for control. But there was none left. Not here. Not anymore. This isn't over, she said finally. You can't prove anything legally. This won't hold. I tilted my head slightly. You'd be surprised, I said. She narrowed her eyes. What does that mean? It means, I said calmly, that this isn't the only evidence. That was enough. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Not angry. Not defensive. Uncertain. Ethan noticed too. What else is there? He asked. I didn't answer directly. Instead, I closed the laptop slowly, deliberately. You'll find out, I said.
Vanessa klappte her back.
This is ridiculous, she muttered. I'm not staying here for this. She walked toward the door.
Stopped.
Turned back. You think you've won, she said. I met her gaze. No, I said quietly. I think the truth did.
She didn't respond.
She couldn't, because there was nothing left to say. The door slammed behind her, and just like that, she was gone. Ethan sat down slowly, like the weight of everything had finally caught up to him. I don't even know what to think, he said. You don't have to, I replied. Not yet.
He looked at me.
What happens now? I took a slow breath, looked around the room, at the house, at the life that had almost been taken from me, and then back at him. Now, I said, we decide what to do with the truth. He nodded.
Slowly, carefully.
Like he was finally understanding. Not everything, but enough. I picked up the laptop, held it for a moment, then set it down again, because for the first time since all of this began,
I didn't feel lost.
I didn't feel powerless. I didn't feel like someone being pushed out of her own life. I felt something else. Something steady. Something clear. Something that didn't need permission anymore. I felt like myself again. And whatever came next, it wouldn't be decided for me.
It would be decided by me.